Literally like screamed. I was like, yes, like this is amazing. Hello pineapples, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica. I create vlogs, health and lifestyle videos, and we always strive to do life the pineapple way. Stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside. So I wanted to take a second here, guys, and just apologize that it's been a couple weeks since I've put out any content. I've just felt totally uninspired by this quarantine. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because life is just upside down or whatever it is, but I haven't felt compelled to film anything. I wanted to give you guys something a little different than what I have been. I know I've been focusing a lot on bags, so that's why I wanted to do something a little different. So I'm happy to share with you this, as by the title, I'm sure you kind of already guessed, will be about the books I have been reading during quarantine. I have spent a lot of my time in the house reading. I think that's a lot of too why I haven't really wanted to film. I've just kind of been so sucked up into some of the books that I've been reading that's just kind of taken a lot of my time and just really what I've focused on and what I want to do. And then I realized, why not share these books with you guys, especially considering that we're all sort of like, you know, scrambling as to what to do and, you know, things to keep us occupied. I love a good Netflix documentary, Tiger King for the win, but, you know, there's only so much TV you can watch, at least in my case. There's only so much I can watch, and then I just get really bored of it, and I just feel like I need to move on to something else. So guys, I haven't been able to read like this in such a long time. I read a lot for my job. I do a lot of proofing, so I come home and the last thing I want to do sometimes is read for leisure. I always try to have a book that I am reading for fun, but I don't really get to read at a pace like I've been reading now. I think it's just because life is just full of distractions. When restaurants and things like that are open, I feel like, you know, you're always spending time with friends, or you're going here, you're going there. Now we don't have that. So a lot of my evenings and my weekends are spent simply reading. Even prior to my job though, I have a liberal arts major from college that I was reading all the time in terms of required reading. Prior to that, it was AP English in high school. So I haven't really been able to read like this again in such a long time. So I'm super excited to create this video. I really do love to read. I've been able to kind of get back to my bookworm roots. Blech. I've been able to get back to my bookworm roots, and it's been a lot of fun. So anyway, let's get to the books. Okay, so I've broken this video down into two categories. The books I've read, and we'll do a little bit of a review. I'm trying not to spoil anything for you guys. And then also books that I want to read. So first, guys, is A Discovery of Witches. This is by Deborah Harkness. This is a trilogy, and I'm not sad to say that I will not be finishing the trilogy, as I could not even finish this book, but I felt compelled to include it in this video simply because I was like 60 pages from finishing. I know that sounds so bad, but let me give you like a brief synopsis. Again, I'm not going to try and like give anything away in case you guys do want to read this. By all means, it could be for some, it's just not for me. Anyway, this is a book about a witch named Diana Bishop. It takes place in kind of like present day. The first several like pages when I started to sit down and read this before I bought this, it was super compelling. You had a female protagonist who is an extremely strong character. She's a Yale professor, and she's gotten all of these amazing accomplishments under her belt at such a young age, and I just really loved her. I loved her strong, independent vibe. And then I loved also like the vampires, the demons, the witches. I love that idea of it. I'm kind of sort of in a fantasy sort of mood. That's why I picked this book up. But she meets this vampire named Matthew. They're after this manuscript, and I don't know, I just don't even feel like I really want to get into the synopsis because like it was just such a snooze fest for me. But like it ends up being like an adult Twilight, and Matthew is such an overbearing character, and it becomes this ridiculous romance. And Diana, who is this one strong, independent female, I just feel like gets swept up into this romance, and she becomes such a dependent character, and she becomes so weak in my book, and honestly, I just like couldn't stand her. So I will not be finishing this book. I thought it was so, like, it just became like silly. Also though guys, I'm not much of a romance reader, to be honest with you. Maybe that's why I didn't like this book. I don't mind romance in a book, I just don't like it to be the center, and like that was what this was. It was like centered on romance, and I'm just not about that life. I just can't get into it. It's not my sort of, like, it's just not my cup of tea. If you like romance and you're kind of looking for that like Twilight, like adult vibe, this is totally your book. I couldn't get into Twilight when I was like in high school and it was the craze. I still have yet to finish that series. I probably never will. And this actually, it just became like a Twilight, and it was just super annoying and I couldn't stand it. And yeah, I ended up not even finishing it. So like I said, I would love to give you more of an in-depth review, but I'm not going to because I hated it. Next on the list, guys, that I've read is The Uninvited by Stephen LaChance. When I actually picked up A Discovery of Witches, I found this sitting in kind of like the paranormal aisle. I didn't even realize that there was such a thing, but there is. And this is based on a true story about a man, Stephen LaChance, who ends up renting, unbeknownst to him, a very haunted house. And not just by ghosts, by like demonic presence. I dig anything paranormal. I love like those types of movies, things like that, like The Conjuring, things of that nature. So when I saw this, I read the back cover, I was very intrigued. I sat down with it, I read the first, like, I don't know, several pages, and I thought it was immediately something I got sucked out into. I actually read this whole book in like a setting. It's not very big. I think it's like a little over 200 pages. There's like, the words are not like so small, the pages aren't terribly long, but yeah, I just really loved it. But again, I like that sort of genre theme. I just really enjoy it. I did take a look at the Goodreads reviews of this book, guys, and some people didn't like it. They said that they felt like he didn't get very much in depth with the haunting. He didn't go into a whole hell of a lot of detail, and I guess I could see where they're coming from. This is the first book of this nature that I've read, so I thought it was a good experience, but I definitely want to check out more books like this going forward, just because I did enjoy this so much. And maybe then, like, in terms of comparison, I will find that this wasn't as well written as some. I know, like, the movie The Conjuring is based on a book series that I would love to read because I love that movie, and I've heard that the book is even more terrifying, and a lot of the things that were put into the books they couldn't do in the movie just because it was that terrifying. So I am actually really highly considering picking those books up, but we'll see. But as for this, I thought it was an enjoyable read. I would definitely recommend it if you like that sort of like that kind of book, that kind of story. Don't read it alone in an empty house. That's all I'm gonna say. Next, guys, I read The Outsider by Stephen King. I was gifted this for my birthday in 2019. It's kind of sat on my shelf. Stephen King's books are not for the faint of heart. They're not generally very like short. This is almost 600 pages, and I guess I would consider that short in terms of a King novel. They're usually like well over 800 pages. So again, kind of like a short story for Stephen King. Stephen King is a hit or miss in my book. I've read some books where I absolutely love them. I've read other books where I just cannot get through them. I think they're just so cluttered in detail. It, for example, by Stephen King, I thought was just horrendous in terms of detail. I just got lost in it, couldn't finish it, and, you know, just ended up putting it down. After 3 attempts, I could not get through it. This book, however, guys, I loved it. I thought it was probably one of my favorite Stephen King books I've ever read. It definitely kind of has that paranormal, like sci-fi serial killer vibe, I guess you could say. I just truly enjoyed it. It took, like, literally every page was enjoyable. I kept flipping. At no point did it get boring, and it's just, it was awesome. It kind of starts with the arrest of a Little League coach, and they were pretty positive he had committed this horrendous crime, and there's evidence to prove that he didn't do it. There's evidence to prove that he did. It's very like, what's gonna happen next? The book just kind of like it kind of built to a climax, and then I felt like it kind of ended very quickly. However, King kind of ended on a like a cliffhanger almost. Like, you just don't know what might come. So I really enjoyed it. I have yet to see the HBO series. Everybody says that that's super good. I highly recommend the book, especially if you kind of like that like crime met like sci-fi sort of deal. It was really cool. Definitely highly recommend. I loved it. Next, guys, I felt that I needed to include this. I actually read this right before the mayhem all started, so it's not necessarily one I've read in quarantine, but it's worth it to include. It's called I Cant Have You. This is based on a true story. It's a true crime novel. It's about the Powell family and Josh Powell and his wife. What was her name? Susan. Jesus Christ. It's been a little while since I read this book. But anyway, they're a Mormon family. They live in, I believe it was Utah. They're originally from Washington State. They moved to Utah so she could get away from her creepy father-in-law, and all of a sudden in December of 2008, she disappears. Josh says she has no idea. He had no idea where she went because he went camping in December during a snowstorm with his 2 toddlers, and just has no idea where his wife went. So it was just like a totally fishy story from the beginning. It ends up that she had kept a diary at work that basically said, if I end up missing or dead, it probably wasn't an accident. You should go check into my husband. So I feel like she knew she was gonna get murdered. Like, Josh was absolutely crazy. Anyway, it is now 2020. We have no idea where Susan Powell is. We've never found her body, have no idea. We assume she's dead, but it kind of follows the story of Josh and his regression, basically, because it gets crazier and crazier, and he ends up killing his 2 little boys at the end of the story in just a horrific manner. And honestly, guys, I love true crime. I really do. I read a lot of it. I watch a lot of it. I listen to a lot of it. This book was just the crime was so gruesome. I think anything with kids is really, really difficult to read when they're dying or just brutally murdered. So that was one of those books for me. Like, after reading it, I just kind of had to take a break from true crime. This was just something that it was horrific. I thought it was a complete failure on the police's like part to arrest Josh Powell way earlier. Yeah, it was a very well written book. I really, really loved it. It was just a very difficult one to swallow. So anyway, if you do like true crime though, I do really recommend this. Again, very well written. I really liked it. I thought it was one of those books that went very quickly. I kind of just picked it up one day. It was on my shelf. I'd bought it used, and I just started it thinking like, oh, I'll just pass time, and I ended up like really loving it, and I read this very quickly. So definitely one to check out if you're a true crime buff. Okay. Next, guys, I don't want any hate. Don't come at me. I am reading the Harry Potter books. Book 1 is downstairs. Unfortunately, I forgot to grab that so you could see. True story, I have never finished the Harry Potter series. Ever. I've read books 1 through 4. I've watched movies 1 through 4. I have never finished the series in either reading or watching. I have no idea what happens. I've done that for a reason for this many years, because I've always wanted to finish the series. I love Harry Potter. The first 4 books were always, I just enjoyed reading them. I've actually read those books multiple times in hopes of finishing the series, and life has just always gotten in my way, whether those were assignments in school or something going on, you know, after work or whatever. I've just never been able to finish it. Also, I'm never normally a series type of girl, just because I kind of have ADD when it comes to series. I get very sick of characters. I don't know why. I do. Like I'm the type of person that I will put it down and I will generally not revisit it until years later, months later, and I've forgotten a lot of the details in the books. And I just feel like in order for me to fully like appreciate the entire series, I should restart, and I generally get stuck on one of the books that I've already read. So I have decided though that this is the perfect time to finish the series. And you know what, guys, on this round, I'm finding that I just truly love them. I am picking up on things that I never picked up before. I don't know if it's just because I really don't have as many distractions as I usually do when I'm reading, but I'm so enjoying these books. I really am. I adore them. I think that they're way more fun as an adult to read. Again, I'm just picking up on a lot more detail, and I feel like as each book goes on, it gets darker and darker, which to me becomes more enjoyable. I actually too just took my Pottermore house like quiz to figure out what house I'm put in. I'm a Gryffindor. I was so excited. I literally like screamed. I was like, yes, like this is amazing. So yeah, I really do. I love these books. I'm not obviously going to give you a synopsis. I know the world knows all about Harry Potter, but yeah, it's just, they're so much fun. So I'm on book 3 now, and this always was one of my all-time favorites. I love book 4 too, but book 3, like, I don't know, I just feel like with the Dementors, like it gets really dark. So love. I'm about, I don't know, a quarter of the way in. I've been dealing with some weird headaches lately, so the last like day and a half I haven't really been able to read, but my goal is to read a lot of this tonight. And the book, like, I fly with it now. Like, I think the pages are just so short that I'm able to really get these done and get through with them very quickly. Like books 1 and 2 I read in a day each, so very awesome. Love it. I'm just I'm so happy I like decided to pick it up. Now let's get into the books that are on my to be read. A lot of the books like I've had and I don't really know what they're about, so yeah, but whatever. So first book, obviously we're going into Harry Potter book 4 after I'm done with book 3. I do not own books 5 through 7, but quick tidbit, guys, if you have a Barnes and Noble in your area, which I am lucky enough that I do, they are offering curbside pickup. So you can order the book online, and if they have it like obviously in store, you can schedule your delivery time, or your pickup time rather, excuse me, and they will have it and bring it out to you in the parking lot. So I love that idea. And right now they're running really good sales, and I would say they're comparable to Amazon book prices. Next, guys, is The Stranger Beside Me by Anne Rule. This is a book about Ted Bundy. She actually worked beside Ted Bundy on one of his like jobs when he was in college, law school, whatever. So she knew him personally. I've heard that Anne Rule is an amazing true crime writer. She writes a lot of different books about a lot of different serial killers. So I'm very excited to read this one. Again, I've told you, I've said it a million times, I love true crime. It is one of my very favorite things. I think if I could ever do life over again and just like go back in time, I would have loved to have been a crime scene investigator, like a CSI, and doing that sort of deal. Like, I feel like as I've gotten older, I've realized the things that I just really truly love, and that would have been something I would have loved to do. But I digress. I do love my job now. I'm very thankful for it, but it would have been super cool. Next, guys, on the Stephen King list, this is Stephen King and Owen King, his son. They wrote this book called Sleeping Beauties, and it's like based on the future, and it's kind of got like the Sleeping Beauty vibe, and I'll just read it to you. In a future so real and near, it might be now, something happens. When women go to sleep, they become shrouded in a cocoon-like gauze. If they are awakened, if the gauze wrapping their body is disturbed or violated, the women become feral and spectacularly violent. And while they sleep, they go to another place, a better place, where harmony prevails and conflict is rare. So there's obviously like more to the synopsis, but like obviously you kind of get the point. I actually kind of peeked at the reviews on Goodreads, and they're like hit or miss. Like, some really loved this and some really hated it. They thought it was super far-fetched. So I'm a little nervous simply because this is a huge book. This is just right around 700 pages, and I hate getting into books like this, and like, you know, sometimes you feel like you need to read into 100, 200 pages because, you know, maybe something really good is happening, and it just becomes like a huge waste of time, kind of like a Discovery of Witches. It just was a huge waste of my time, and I don't want to like read that many pages and discover that I just truly hated it. So I don't know, there is a sequel to this book, so I don't know, I'm hoping I really love it. We'll see. The Uninvited was one of those books that people just didn't love, and I loved it. So, you know what? We're gonna put the reviews aside, and I'm just gonna read this, and I'll let you guys know what I think of it. Next, I feel like we have a theme here, is another Stephen King book. It's called Salem's Lot. It's one of his like older books. I believe it. Yes, it is definitely one of his older books. Let's see. What year? Copyright 1975 and copyright renewed in 2003, so definitely older. A lot of booktubers I have been watching love this book. They think it's one of King's best. They say that it's one of those ones where you do have to kind of get into it before it gets really scary. It is about a vampire. I feel like I've got this theme going on. I just am really intrigued by paranormal, vampires, witches, like the whole nine. That's just kind of like the theme I'm currently in right now, or like what I'm fixated on, and I'm so excited for this book. Again, I just love a good scary book just as much as I love a good scary movie. Sometimes I think the books are always better, and I'm just really looking forward to reading this. So, and it's not all that long, and the pages are pretty short and the words are pretty large, so I think I'll be able to fly through this pretty quickly. And last, guys, is A Little Life by Hana Yanagihara. A lot of people are saying that this book is phenomenal. I'm very excited. It takes place in New York City, I believe, and it follows 4 college classmates broke adrift and buoyed only by their friendship and ambition as they move to New York in search of fame and fortune. While their relationships, which are tinged by addiction, success, and pride, deepen over the decades, the men are held together by their devotion to the brilliant, enigmatic Jude, a man scarred by an unspeakable childhood trauma, a hymn to brotherly bonds, and a masterful depiction of love in the 21st century. So a lot of people are saying that this is just phenomenal. It goes down as one of their favorite books. So I've been intrigued. Like I've had it on my TBR list for several months now. It's a little different than the rest of the books, obviously. It's neither true crime nor is it fantasy or sci-fi or anything like that. So I am a little nervous. This book is big. I've heard it starts off a little slow, but I'm really hoping I love it as much as others have. It gets amazing reviews, and I don't know, I'm very much looking forward to it. So we will see. I will come out with a video and then maybe another TBR. Let me know if you like this video. Let me know if it was something that you're into. What books are you reading right now? Drop it in the comments below. And yeah, let's get a discussion going. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching. I hope you all stay safe during this quarantine. I know these times are really scary. They're very unknown. And yeah, we're all in the same boat, but you know, a lot of faith, a lot of hope, and we're gonna get through this together. This too shall pass. So anyway, guys, until the next one.